Good morning, and first of all, I want to thank NAMA Group for inviting me here to present this topic on technological developments on HR. This is the one, right? Oops. Okay, so I'm not going to go running through the agenda, but overall, I'm just going to talk about the evolution of HR. What are the technologies available? What are the challenges? And then what are the skills that we need to actually implement these technologies in organizations? So as we all know, the typical administrative role of HR has evolved. It's no more about compliance and forms or going to shed tears at the HR department to complain about, your supervisor not giving you a fair appraisal and all that good stuff. It has moved more into a strategic role. There's a lot of discussion about HR even having a seat at the board level. Also, HR has three key things right now. It is about leadership. It is about converting an organization into a learning organization. And it's also about enforcing change, all sorts of change, given all the change technologies that we have around us. Everything is moving so fast. What we already know is that HR has already gone mobile. And these things are quite familiar in many organizations, even in Oman. And this is really just empowering your employees with the concept of something called self-service. In some organizations, it's just on ERPs, but many organizations are moving it to mobile because people are on their mobile more than they are in their offices. And there's a little bit of statistics here that people actually check their mobile at least 74 times a day, if not more. And they actually check their mobile even before they go to bed or while they're, about to snooze. So what's technology today? We've already talked a little bit earlier. So someone mentioned Internet of Things. I'm not going to get into details because I'm not the expert in that. But when we come to Internet of Things, we know that there is smart plugs, smart thermostat, smart locks, even health patch. And what these things are is that, for example, the smart plug and the thermostat is to save energy. These things are actually installed in homes already today. You've got the smart lock, and what that means is you might be outside of the house and you have a babysitter coming over. You can actually program it to just allow the babysitter to come in at a specific time and then, expire that privilege. Health patch MD, this is something completely different, where you actually can measure the temperature, the heart rate, different sort of things on people. What's very interesting is not just about taking care of one individual, but it's data that can be collected for the medicine sector to really understand trends. So for example, in Oman, if we use data properly, we can actually see that diabetes is on the rise. There's other things on the rise. How does the healthcare sector optimize on their costs, on their spendings, on medicine, what doctors need to focus on, and so on. Bottom line when it comes to Internet of Things is that there has to be integration. We're already seeing this happening. People want all these sort of things to be all integrated into one device where they have control over. This is virtual reality and augmented reality. This is already existing in many organizations. There are some organizations in Oman that are already trying to implement virtual reality. One of them is a shipping company that's actually looking into creating virtual reality as a training module. So instead of taking them on the ship, you just have them go through this virtual reality training, and they can, they actually put them through scenarios, whether it's on the health and safety, whether it's other things. And then you've got augmented reality. Now even retail stores are moving into augmented reality. And what this means is it's a lot of investment to open a huge furniture store to store, bedroom sets and whatnot. So what you do is you put the customer through this augmented reality where they can actually go and see what sort of furniture they want and how is it going to look and feel if they purchased it. Then we've got the digital platforms, and what this means is all sorts of platforms. One thing that we're very familiar with is cloud. A lot of people aren't aware, but most of us use cloud for many years now, whether it's on, whether it's email and all that stuff. But then you've got the social media, you've got emails and all. With all these technologies available, it's amazing how much analysis can be run to do a lot of things, which I'll talk a little bit in the next slides. But one thing I wanted to share is that it actually improves collaboration. There is efficiency. We're focusing on customer experience as well as running analytics. Artificial intelligence, we know a lot about this. It usually sounds a lot more fancier than what we're familiar with. But just to give you some examples, we've heard of these, the self-driving cars, Tesla, Siri on our iPhones, Cogito is actually an application that many leading organizations use for customer service. You've got Netflix. Netflix, many of you probably have it at home right now. And what it does, it basically looks at the habits of what you like to watch and recommends new movies. Then you've got drones, Pandora, chatbots. I wanted to talk a little bit about chatbot, and this is the dark side of artificial intelligence. There was a chatbot that was launched by Microsoft called Tay, and in less than 16 hours, it had to be shut down because its interaction with Twitter users made it very abusive, made it very racist, and there was a lot of comments on it. So they had to shut it down, and Microsoft said that they're going to have to work on this chatbot. What this means is that we design artificial intelligence to learn, predict behaviors, and actually work independently. But the dangerous side of it is that if it's interacting with bad behavior, it can also learn that. Recently, there was another incident where two artificial intelligence created their own language. And nobody, like even the human beings who actually configured them, could not understand what was happening. And they were deleting files on like incremental basis. So again, they had to shut them down. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to artificial intelligence. So moral of the story really is that machines learn, they're configured by us, but they also learn from us. Readiness of HR. So there was a study that was done by Gallup, and basically 50%, more than 50% of the senior executives feel that HR is not ready for this. And there is a high need for them to adapt and change quickly. Now the trends of HR tech. So this is what's already available in the market. Most of them with high impact is on sourcing and selection and HR core systems. HR core systems we're all familiar with. Most of the organizations in Oman actually have implemented it. But when it comes to sourcing and selection, there's something called artificial intelligence that helps you do this. The ones that are even of much importance, but there aren't enough technologies around at the moment, is learning, performance consulting, and productivity. And now the hot topic is around people analytics. So just a little bit on how technology impacts these different areas. When it comes to sourcing and selection, there is artificial intelligence that actually manages the ad management of the job, the sourcing, the online interviews, or they do video interviews, and then they actually help you with scoring the candidates, and then the onboarding. And with onboarding, IBM, for example, has an artificial intelligence that does the onboarding, that helps you match you with your mentors, and also has a chatbot that can answer up to 200 questions. And the nice thing about that is not just answering questions, but it's also collecting data from you. So if they notice that there is a trend of employees asking the same question several times, they can actually address what is the issue, is there lack of transparency, and so on. And then the workforce. The workforce is changing already. HR in the global organizations are already looking at devising teams based on skills and strengths. So they're not just looking at full-time employees, they're looking at part-time employees, freelancers, consultants, and so on. Other thing, automation of HR we're familiar with. I talked a little bit about AI. And then we've got team management. A lot of organizations have already installed their own real-time messaging. So it's like WhatsApp. Many use WhatsApp, but others have their own internal messaging system. They've also got online training, video learning. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slides. Wellness applications. Now, this is not something that has picked up very well, but it is going to be something of interest to HR. And what we're seeing is that there is a convergence between personal performance as well as professional performance. There's been enough research proven that the fitter people are, the more innovative and creative they are. So here's some things when it comes to using artificial intelligence. For screening, they have seen a reduced cost of 75%. They're already using virtual reality for job testing. So it's very interesting. If you want to hire technicians, you just put them through this VR experience, and you can actually see how well they perform, put them through scenarios, so you don't make bad hires. And then there's also virtual reality for onboarding and training. And then you've got wearables. There is an organization that actually mandated all employees to wear Fitbit and to encourage them to keep moving. Because obviously when you sit in an office for 3-4 hours or 6 hours, you actually start to doze off, your performance goes down and so on. So it was encouraging them to at least do the 10,000 steps a day that we're familiar with. And then you've got AI automation, even for candidate scheduling and outreach. We know that HR, one of the things that they hate the most is the recruitment part, and going through thousands of CVs, screening them, and all that. So this takes care of it. Other things, crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing has become quite familiar in the West, and what this means is that some of the tasks that HR usually does has been passed on now by the crowd, which is the employees. They actually do some of those processes. Now, when we talk about culture as cement and engine, is that facts are facts. Everyone is on the mobile. Technology is playing a big role, and we can't ignore that. But what's important is to create that experience. So it's not the technology without the experience. Automation, we already know that. Intuitive versus predictive. So with all the data that we have, we can actually run models to understand why people leave, why people are interested to join your organization, what else do you need to do to solve problems in the organization. And then outsourcing. Outsourcing, this is actually happening in the West. The whole HR department is being outsourced, and it's called as managed as a service. And there are organizations looking at just putting it back as a back office. And what this means is there is a lot for HR to do, but when it comes to the typical tasks, the employee cycle, that's not what it's about anymore. It's more on leadership, it's more on change management, and it's more on turning the organization into a learning one. Some more social networking is important, and this is something that a lot of organizations are already using. They've realized that without collaboration, you cannot create an innovative atmosphere. Assessment tools, they are already available. Plenty of them are being used in Oman when you want to assess employees. There's no bias in the process. Tracking productivity, a lot of them have to report their time. And the other thing is on this annual performance appraisal, it's being thrown out the window, and we're looking at more real-time feedback for employees. And then you've got other digital tools to enable people to work virtually. You don't need huge offices, and you don't need people who have maybe had an accident, but they can still use their hands and minds, but they just can't get to the office. We have to provide that sort of flexibility for them. And then overall, it's just providing this digital experience where self-service, I think, is already familiar with the NAMA group. So when it comes to big data and analytics, I can say that this is something that we talk a lot about, but based on statistics, less than 10% of HR functions actually utilize this. And this is not just in Oman, but this is worldwide. And at the end of the day, they do say that data is the new oil. So this is something that HR really needs to look into. When it comes to analytics, I'll just run you through this quickly. Talent acquisition, these are all the benefits. So in terms of acquiring talent, in terms of reducing the attrition rate, improving retention of employees, succession planning is one of the big topics for 2017. And what that means, it's not based on judgment, it's not based on what your manager thinks, but you actually have data that you can use to assess who are the successes that are actually ready to succeed, and who are the successes in 2 to 3 years, and who are the successes that might need more development. Optimal staffing, again, this is not something based on management's experience and management's intuition onto how much staff they need. You can actually use the data to help you determine the optimal staffing. Same thing with training and engagement. We haven't been able to measure return on investment. I've talked to many organizations, and I asked them how much return have you had on the spending of your training. One is they don't know how to measure it, and two, they very often don't know how to do it. And I think the other problem is that based on what we've seen, there's only less than 10% return when it comes to training. Of course, at the end of the day, when you create good experiences and you're using data that's reliable for employees, you actually reduce their complaints. And when you treat employees well, they actually take care of your customers. So I don't have much time, so I'm just going to quickly, when it comes to e-learning, we've got personalized training, and what this means is it's personalized to your specific job, to your specific needs. Obviously, with good technologies, you're able to do that. Automation and e-learning development, there is an organization that allows employees to download different sources of learnings, and actually those learnings are used, integrated, and developed into e-learnings. Then you've got mobile learning. This is a $70 billion market by 2020. Then we've got the augmented reality and virtual reality. gamification. Gamification, one of the popular ones is on customer service. So you gamify the experience and you actually motivate employees to serve their customers better, faster, and they actually get rewards for it. And then micro-learning, this is something that has been very successful. It could be a short SMS on a new regulation or a new policy, and what you do is you boost it, so you might send it 3 times a week, and that actually sticks with employees. So I think I've already talked about the benefits. If you see it over here, I'm just going to have to run through these quickly. But based on all the tools that are available, you can embrace on all these benefits. If there's anything specific that anyone wants to ask me about, I can answer. This is the dark side of any technology. We can't obviously fully rely on it and put all the concentration of power on it, because you kind of dehumanize the connection between people. Cybersecurity will always be an issue, but cybersecurity is also on the rise. There is a lot of work being done to secure data. Cultural resistance is usually one of the biggest things, and that is what HR does. HR plays a big role to help change that culture. And then flawed algorithms, just like I mentioned with Tay, the chatbot that went completely out of control in 16 hours, posting inflammatory comments. You need to ensure that the algorithms that you use are constantly updated. So what's the impact on all the technologies available? I think people will always be worried, especially the millennials, if the jobs are available in the market. Artificial intelligence has depressed the wages or has lowered the wages or salaries of employees. With all that said, there is a lot of promising future, and what's nice is that the millennials are all looking for opportunities to grow. At least the people I've interviewed, they all want to join an organization that is going to provide them opportunities to learn and grow, and they all are tech savvy. So hopefully with those things we can actually develop them to become innovative. I've already talked about this, about the future workforce. We're going to have combinations of different people, and HR is going to optimize the performance of contractual work or projects in an organization by taking the best talent available. And as I mentioned, the millennials are placing a lot of importance on growing and learning in an organization. This is one of the things I liked on the skills. You can see that the 3 things rising for 2020 is critical thinking, creativity, and emotional intelligence. People management will always be there, but negotiation and quality control have gone out the window. Why? Because actual technology is going to help you with that. It's going to eliminate those things. Now, when it comes to the state of HR tech, they are very slow compared to other industries. So if we look at finance, we look at manufacturing and so on, HR has been slow. One of the major reasons is that they're not able to adapt or implement these successfully. But the biggest issue is that I've just asked a few people yesterday, how many apps do they have on their phone? Some said 40, some said 60. And I said, how do you feel about that? They said, I feel overwhelmed. And this is what's happening with HR. There are plenty of technologies and apps, but what we're looking for is one integrated solution that has them all on one platform. And then we've got all the other stuff. Bottom line, when it comes to HR tech, it's not about management, it's about employee experience. So these are the considerations, is that how you're going to be using technology to attract, retain, and inspire talent, and how are these developments going to actually inspire your talent to deliver the business outcomes. And finally, what is your HR department going to do as a result? These are just the skill sets that HR need to focus in. So it's no more about the technical stuff and policies and procedures and laws, but really they need to have good numerical capabilities when they're looking at data. They need to have a business-oriented mindset. They really need to understand the business more than anything else. Have design thinking. So design thinking means, what are we going to do to create this nice employee experience for the workforce? And then having this cross-cultural and technology competency, creative inquiry, and then having knowledge on the new media literacies that are in the market, be it virtual reality, IoT, and so on. And that wraps up my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shatha. Okay, so the floor is open for questions now. Yes.
Thank you very much for the presentation. You have commented in the beginning about the new changes in the organization, about the learning leadership, and you have mentioned enforcing change, not leading change. So what's the difference between what's happened now between leading change or managing change, and now it's coming to enforcing change? So
I think all those words you can be using them interchangeably. At the end of the day, I think what the issue with change management issues, at least that I've seen over here in Oman, is that it's not communicated transparently. People don't understand what's in it for them. They don't understand the benefits, that it's really to serve them. Very often people think that, oh, when the change is happening, it's actually something you're gonna take away something from me, or I'm gonna lose my job, or it's gonna downgrade me, or it's gonna be something that I'm not capable of doing, and hence there's a lot of resistance. So the word enforcing, leading, managing, it's just, you can use them interchangeably.
Thank you.
But thanks for pointing it out.
Mohammed. While Mohammed receiving the point, we have online question also. How can we control the cultural resistance of a new technology?
I don't know if this is about controlling cultural resistance or educating them. People resist to anything they don't understand. So in my humble opinion, if you educate people as to why this is good for them, people will be open. We only resist to things we don't understand.
I think my question is almost related to the question what you have asked. How staff are perceiving those technologies what you have mentioned? Are they willing to use technologies to interact with the management, to interact with their company? And because communication here is very important. How staff they are perceiving this? Yes, technology is there always.
See, when it comes to self-service, the reception was pretty good. People enjoyed just being able to go on the mobile and see, what's the leave balance, or how much vacation time they can take, or, when are they going to be getting their next pay, or what are their benefits, and so on. When it comes to messaging, the social network part, they prefer to create groups where their managers are not on it. So this is quite familiar. Others are trying to promote it. So managers just entertain it by stepping away. That's something that's always going to be a challenge, because they do feel that they will be reprimanded for saying something that, might not be in favor of management.
Any further question from the audience or online? Okay, so here's the question. Since that it is the era of digitization, smart technology, and software integration, etc., in terms of HR skills, what should organization focus on? Should we have technology expert in-house?
This has nothing to do with having technology experts in-house. As we can see, all the trends, even when using technology, the expenditure has dramatically reduced. Everything is available as a service. So whether it's your softwares, your infrastructure, your platform, and as I mentioned earlier, even HR itself can be completely outsourced as a service. The skills that are needed are leadership skills, change management skills. They're able to synchronize business goals to individual goals. They have creative inquiry. They understand what employee experience is about. So when we talked about design thinking, in my last slide, those things were mentioned, what sort of HR skills are required.
Maybe about the focus also, what could be the priority? Like in terms of software, smart technologies?
See, I think we need to start with the basics.
Right.
If organizations have not even been able to successfully implement a self-service, HR, mobile, the very basic services, we're not going to be able to achieve something. I think the problem is sometimes that we want to go to level 3 when we haven't achieved anything on level 1 and 2.
Totally agree. Okay, so we may conclude the session now. Engineer Omar, if you don't mind. Thank you, Shatha. Thank you so much.
نماء لرخاء يدوم.